This is lesson 5-4 from the Algebra Readiness textbook. For today's lesson, you'll want to grab a sharpened pencil in your notes packet, begin your study guide problems, and then continue the video when you're ready to compare your answers to mine. The first question asks us to solve and simplify. I see that it was x minus 5/8. To isolate the x, I need to add 5/8 to both sides, giving me the answer of 9/8. 9/8 can be converted to 1 1/8. The next one. I need to subtract 3/4 from both sides of the equal sign. Then, this is where it gets tricky, so I'm looking right here. I had to find a common denominator of 44. So I had 4 and 16/44 minus 33/44. I can't take 16 minus 34 or 33. So I borrowed from the 4. That one whole is 44/44. When added together, I got 60/44. 60 minus 33 is 27/44, and 3 minus 0 is 3. My answer is 3 and 27/44. The last question. When Jason started a job, he had 207 3/8 pounds of nails. When he finished, he had 149 3/4 pounds of nails. How many pounds of nails did he use on the job? So I take the number of nails that he had remaining, 149 3/4, plus the number of nails he used, n, and that equals the total number of nails he had altogether, 207 3/8. To isolate my variable, I subtract 149 3/4 from both sides. When I do that, I end up with a situation similar to the last one. I find a common denominator, so now I'm looking over here. 3/8 minus 6/8. I can't do that without borrowing. So from 207, I borrowed one whole, and I called it 8/8. When I add those two together, I end up with 11/8. 11/8 minus 6/8 gives me 5/8. Then I take 206, which ending with borrowing ends up equaling 57 5/8 pounds. Today's learning target is to now go on to multiplying and dividing fractions. We just finished adding and subtracting. Here are the notes I'd like you to put in your notes packet. Rewrite, in order to multiply fractions, the first step is to rewrite mixed numbers as improper fractions. The second step is to simplify the fractions, and the third step is to multiply across. The example I have in your notes is 1 3/4 times 2 5/6. The first thing we're going to do is rewrite those mixed numbers as improper fractions. You might recall that you take 4 times 1 and add 3 and get 7/4. Then 2 times 6 is 12. 12 plus 5 is 17/6. So I'm done with step 1. Then, if I can simplify diagonally, I do so. Then I multiply across. 6 times 4 is 24. 7 times 17. Well, 7 times 10 is 70. 7 times 7 is 49. So I'm really looking at 119. Now, my answer is an improper fraction. How many groups of 24 are there in 119? You're probably going to want to do a side problem here, and you end up with 4 groups, and then what's left, let's see, is 23 24ths. All right. I'd like you to try Try these 4, remembering the rules. First, this first problem is positive times positive, so you'll have a positive answer. Letter B, I have a negative times a positive, so I'll have a negative answer. This one, positive times a positive, positive answer. This one, a negative times a negative, so I will have a positive answer. So make sure you're remembering your rules for multiplying positive and negative numbers in order to be able to get the correct sign of these answers. Pause the video and try these now. All right, hopefully you did. 2 times 1 is 2. 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times 2 is 10. 6 times 3 is 18, and it's negative. I need to simplify, so I'm going to divide by the greatest common factor of 2. And I get negative 5/9. The next one, 35 over 72. Then I see that I can, let's see, can I reduce that? I think so. Let's see. No. Nope, I don't think I have any. I think we're good there. I had to use all of my divisibility rules and see if there were any common factors, and there aren't. Okay, the next one. 1 times 3 is 3. 4 times 8 is 32. Negative times negative is positive, and so my answer is 3/32. Now, when a numerator and a denominator have common factors, you can actually simplify before multiplying. So, in the last 4 examples, you just multiplied the numerators, multiplied the denominators, and then simplified. But in this case, we're going to simplify first. Let me change the color so that it stands out a little bit. Do you see that I have a 9 in the numerator and a 9 in the denominator? Well, that has a common factor of 9. 9 divided by 9 is 1. 9 divided by 9 is 1. Any numerator and any denominator can be simplified. Now here I've got a 5 and a 15. 5 and 15 are both divisible by 5. Negative 5 divided by 5 is negative 1. 15 divided by 5 is 3. Notice how I did not forget this negative here, and I did call it negative 1. Now we're going to multiply across. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. 3 times 3 is 3. Negative 1/3. The same thing is true when we have a variable. Let's start with y and 11. No common factors there. How about 4 and 8? 4 and 8 have a common factor of 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. Y times 2 is 2y. 1 times 11 is 11. And we're just going to leave it like that, with the variable in the fraction. Now I'd like you to pause the video, try simplifying before you multiply. We call it cross-simplifying. Any numerator and any denominator. Go. Hopefully you saw that in this one, the 3 and the 6 have a common factor of 2. And you end up with 6/7. It makes simplifying a lot easier to do it before because the numbers aren't as big. 5 and 25 are both divisible by 5. And 21 and 15 are both divisible by 3. Now don't forget this is a negative times a positive, so I'll have a negative answer. 1 times 7 is 7. 5 times 5 is 25. Lastly, 3 and 9 are both divisible by 3. 2 and 4 are both divisible by 2. So my new number here is 1x, and here is 2 in the denominator. When I multiply across, don't forget this x. So 1x times 1 is just x. 3 times 2 is 6. Now, you might have written 1x over 6. You might have written 1/6 x, or you might have written x over 6. All three of these are exactly the same thing. All right, now, what if you have an improper fraction? A mixed number. If you have mixed numbers, you simply change them to improper first, and then simplify, then multiply across. Let's try the first one together. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 3 is 15 over 4, times 2/5. Now I'm going to simplify. 5 and 15 both have a common factor of 5, and 2 and 4 have a common factor of 2. Now I multiply across, and I get 3/2. Make sure that you don't leave your answer improper. We have to go the extra step and call this 1 1/2. Now you pause the video and try the next two. Come on back when you're ready to compare your answer to mine. All right, 2/3 times 9/7, and so I get a common factor of 3, and so any numerator and any denominator. 2 and 7 do not have any common factors. 3 and 7 would be a numerator and a denominator. They don't have any common factors. 2 and 1 don't have any common factors, other than 1, of course. So 3 times 2 is 6. 1 times 7 is 7, and so my answer is 6/7. 6 times 2 is 12. 12 plus 5 is 17/6, and that's negative, times 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8/5. Then I have common factors here with the 6 and the 8. So that becomes 3 and 4, and 5 and 17 don't have any common factors, do they? So we're going to take 17 times 4, and we get 68. Negative times a positive is a negative answer, over 15. How many times does 15 go into 68? 4 times. Make sure you keep dragging that negative with you. And 15 times 4 is 60, so 8/15 is remaining. There we go. All right. To multiply mixed numbers, first write them as improper fractions and then multiply across. So here's a word problem. Central Park in New York City is a rectangle. It is approximately 2.5 miles long and 1/2 mile wide. What is the area? Well, if it's a rectangle, remember that the area is found by taking length times width. So we're going to take 2 1/2 times 1/2. So 5/2 times 1/2. There are no common factors diagonally. Do you see that 2 and 2 are both denominators? It takes a numerator and a denominator in order for it to be able to simplify before you multiply. So you get 5/4 or 1 1/4 square miles. All right, let's talk about dividing fractions. 2, well, this is going to be a problem if it is going to block out my number on me. Let's see. I don't remember what the number was. So let's go with this. I think it's 2 divided by 1/2, based on the picture I have of my oranges. So if I started with 2 oranges and I wanted to divide the 2 oranges in half, I end up with 4 smaller pieces of oranges, don't I? But still 4 pieces. Now, to divide fractions, you multiply by the reciprocal. It's actually said reciprocal, but I like to call it a reciprocal because it reminds you to flip the second fraction. So the first number is 2, change division to multiplication, and then flip the second number. So 2 times 2 gives me 4, which is modeled right here with the oranges. 2 divided by 1/2 is the same as 4. Make sure you write those notes down in your notes packet. Now let's try dividing. 2/9 divided by 2/5. So we're going to keep the first fraction, we're going to change it to multiplying, and then we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So I switched the 2/5 and to 5/2. Now you multiply using the same rules we just learned. And you get 1 times 5 is 5, 9 times 1 is 9. Now what if I have variables involved? The first number stays the same, then you multiply by the reciprocal. Now let's simplify if we can. I have an x here and an x here. They have a common factor of x, so I get 1 and 1. And I'm left with 4 times 1 is 4, 3 times 1 is 3. That's improper, so 1 and 1/3. I would like you to pause the video and try these 3 division problems, and then come on back and compare your answers to mine. The rules for dividing negative fractions and multiplying negative fractions is the same. If the signs are different, the answer is negative. So to set up my first problem, I keep the first number, switch the operation to multiplication, and I flip the second fraction. Make sure you leave that first fraction alone, so multiply by the reciprocal. Then I follow the rules for multiplying. I'm simplifying by dividing by the greatest common factor of 2, then I multiply across, and I get -1/2. The next problem, 5a over 8, change division to multiplying, and flip the second fraction. The reciprocal is 3/2. I have no common factors between 5a and 2, nor do I have common factors between 3 and 8, so I'm going to multiply across 15a over 16 and leave it like that. The last one, 3b over 7 times the reciprocal, which is 7/6. I see that there are some common factors. 7 and 7 are both divisible by 7. And I get 1 in the numerator and 1 in the denominator. 6 and 36 are both divisible by 6. 36 divided by 6 is 6. 6 times 1 is 6. 1 times 1 is 1. We don't leave it as 6 over 1, though. Write it as 6. All right. To divide mixed numbers, change the mixed numbers to improper fractions before multiplying by the reciprocal. So this one I don't think you're going to need too many examples of. So what we're going to do is I'm going to demonstrate this one right here, and then we're going to move on. So you can cross off this one and this one. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8/5. Then I'm going to change. Now listen, here's where kids screw up. They want to change to multiplying and the reciprocal all in one move because they think it's faster. But you're going to screw up and make a mistake. In fact, what happens is they forget to take the reciprocal of the second fraction. 6/5. Now I'm going to keep the first fraction, change it to multiplying, flip the second fraction. Make sure that you do this in 2 steps. This is very, very important. I know we want to shortcut it, but you will make mistakes. And now you can see that I have common factors, and here I have a common factor of 2. When I multiply across, I end up with -4/3, which is the same as -1 and 1/3. Okay? All right. Let's try. I think that we are going to cross this one off, and we're going to try just this last one because it has some variables in it. I'm going to change division to multiplication. Now, looking with any numerator and any denominator, the 3 and the 6 have a common factor of 3. The 7t and 35t have a common factor of t. They equal 1. 7 and 35 are both divisible by 7. What I'm left with is 2 times 1, which gives me 2. 5 times 1 gives me 5. 2/5. Let's give this a try on your homework tonight. Make sure you're doing only the odds on the entire assignment.